President Joe Biden touted the Labor Department's latest jobs report showing that hiring accelerated in the beginning of the year as unemployment remained historically low, saying it shows America's economy is the strongest in the world, in a statement Friday. The commander-in-chief noted the remarkable milestones the job market has achieved. The unemployment rate has been below 4% for 24 straight months and the U.S. economy has created nearly 15 million jobs since January 2021. It's great news for working families that wages, wealth, and jobs are higher now than before the pandemic, and I won't stop fighting to lower costs and build an economy from the middle out and bottom up, Biden said. I'll continue to stand in the way of efforts by congressional Republicans to enact massive tax giveaways for the wealthy and big corporations, cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and raise costs for American families. But a new CNN poll conducted by SSRS reflects that Biden still isn't getting credit for economic gains on his watch. 55% of Americans say they feel Biden's policies have worsened economic conditions. 55 minutes ago, the unemployment rate hasn't been this low for this long since Nixon was president. From CNN's Matt Egan and Alicia Wallace. This job market keeps rewriting the history books. The latest superlative, the unemployment rate has now stayed safely below 4% for 2 full years. The last time the unemployment rate was this low for this long, Richard Nixon was in the White House. The fact that the unemployment rate has been below 4% for 24 months straight for the first time since 1967 is truly remarkable, Joe Brusuelas, chief economist and principal at RSMUS, told CNN. And that's the word I keep saying as I look through this report, this is remarkable. Remarkable, is the takeaway here. More than a year ago, it seemed all but certain that the labor market would feel the effects of, and potentially be reeling from, the Federal Reserve's aggressive rate hiking campaign. But 11 hikes and 4 pauses later, the U.S. job market is registering one of the longest periods of expansion this century. The unemployment rate stayed below 4% for 27 months in a row, starting in November 1967 under President Lyndon B. Johnson through January 1970, according to federal data. During COVID-19, the unemployment rate spiked to as high as 14.8% in April 2020 before falling rapidly. Many economists expected the jobless rate would rise above 4% as the Federal Reserve spiked interest rates to fight inflation. As recently as last March, Fed officials projected the unemployment rate would be 4.5% in 2023. 1 hour 10 minutes ago, Americans' attitudes toward the economy continued to improve in January, thanks to slowing inflation. Americans continued to feel more upbeat about the economy this month, according to the University of Michigan's latest consumer survey released Friday. Consumer sentiment soared 13% in January, according to the university's final reading, confirming what a preliminary estimate showed earlier this month. Sentiment reached its highest level since July 2021, reflecting improvements in the outlook for both inflation and personal incomes. After reserving judgment last fall about whether the slowdown in inflation would persist, consumers now feel assured that inflation will continue to soften, Joanne Shu, the university's Surveys of Consumers director, said in a release. Sentiment has resumed the upward trajectory from the all-time low measured in June of 2022, which had stalled in the late summer and fall of 2023. Indeed, inflation slowed markedly throughout 2023 as both economic growth and the job market remained on strong footing. It's clear that inflation weighs heavily on U.S. consumer sentiment. Sentiment reached a record low in June 2022, which was the same month that inflation reached a 4-decade high. Still, the university's sentiment index remains well below pre-pandemic levels, but if inflation continues to cool further, then sentiment would likely follow suit, recovering further. The job market holding steady would also boost U.S. consumer moods, since personal incomes were also a big reason why sentiment jumped in January.